Well, it's kind of like the song Yesterday's Wine. Last time we met was just out of Houston.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Okay.
Yep. On my birthday, the last of your Waltz Across Texas
It was.
tour.
Man, that was a hot, wild, rowdy little tour. But yeah, but we loved it. I mean, it was just good to get out and do it for a minute because I don't do it like that much these days. So I enjoyed it. But yeah, it was scrappy.
I was glad that we got to catch the tail end of it.
I was so happy to see y'all out there, you and your sweet wife, Earth. And man, that was the best part, honestly, was seeing familiar faces. Except that at my Austin show, there was a guy that came running through the crowd with a bubble gun, like a bubble blaster, and bubbles were going off. And there were just all these kids dancing because my niece came with all her college friends. And it was just the weirdest.
Sounds like a rave or something.
It was like a rave. Which I didn't see coming, but I really enjoyed it, and I encouraged.
You never know what's going to happen at an Elizabeth Cook show.
You don't, and I encouraged it. It was, I think, it was an adventure for everyone. So
yeah,
that was fun. But it was so good to see y'all there.
Yeah, you dedicated "Dublin Blues" by Guy Clark to me. That was that was the highlight of my whole birthday. That's one of my favorite songs of all time.
Me too. That song, like, it's weird. I had known of the song and heard it over the years, and then I don't know if you have this experience, but just every once in a while, like, I'll hear a song that I've heard for a long time, and for some reason it'll just grab me in a new way.
Yeah.
And it grabbed me in a new way one day, and I just had to, like, learn it. And then when I learned it, I enjoyed doing it. I was killing time in Lufkin. I was killing Lufkin, Texas. I was killing a few days, and I just sat there and learned that song. Wasn't anything else to do.
Yeah, I feel like I relate more to that song because we went on a European trip, my first time over there this past summer, and it was horrible. I hated every minute of it.
Oh, my God.
We got robbed.
Oh, my God.
They stole our passports.
No.
Like 1,300 euros.
What?
And all this stuff. And so I kept thinking of Dublin Blues. I wish I was in Austin.
Oh, at the Chili Parlor bar.
Yeah.
Drinking Mad Dog margaritas.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't really have any urge to go back to France. The rest of it was cool, Ireland and all that stuff.
You know, it's so funny. I took my daddy to France. That was the only time I ever took him overseas, unless you count California, which might as well have been overseas for him. So I took him to France, and yeah, oh my God. When we got back, he got live on the air at 6:50 backstage at the Opry, and they started asking him, and he started telling them about how stuff stinks and the bread was so hard that the flies couldn't penetrate it. And I was like, please, like, give him the hook. Somebody please get him off live radio right now, please. But anyway,
Have you seen the clip of Waylon and Kristofferson? And
yes.
Chris says something about France, and Waylon says something like, the heck with them. Chris says, well, how could you hate France? They have beautiful women and 400 kinds of cheese and wine. And Waylon says, yeah, so does Fort Worth. That's about how I feel about it. Sorry to our French listeners.
Well, I'll tell you what. The truth is I have had some amazing experiences in France, and I personally love France. But my daddy, we kept trying to get him a meal to the hotel. We were worried about him flying overseas and stuff, and he got to his hotel, and I went to take him a meal from the restaurant service. He had 6 platters of the exact same meal all lined up. So many people were trying to bring him a platter. He hadn't touched none of it. And he was standing there holding a glass jar and a chocolate wafer. And he said, I went next door and I found this potted meat and some Kit Kats. So I'm just going to have that. And so that was his dinner.
Yeah, everybody was telling me, all these places, you got to try the food over in France and Ireland and these places. And, I'm from South Louisiana. Mm-hmm. And I went over there and ate, and I was like, man, this is... Get me back to the house.
I got a pizza. I remember the first time I got a pizza with an egg on it, like over easy in the middle of it, and I was like, "That's different." But there's certain parts of it, particularly their champagne and some of their wine. Oh yeah. And there is a certain vibe there that I don't know. I think I could kill some time in Saint-Tropez myself, but
yeah.
But I can also kill some time in Galveston, So.
Yeah. I'd never heard of a pizza with egg in it.
Yeah, well, it was on it. It was just like they just cracked one in the very middle, and it was just sitting there kind of sliding around.
Huh.
Yeah. I was like, no shit.
You need one of those. You've had a fishing show and
Yeah.
and you voice acted and all this other stuff. You need one of those diners, drive-ins, and dive shows.
Yeah.
Me and you will hit the road and we'll go
All
try
right.
these
Yeah,
different
but the
foods.
bread is so hard. Good Lord.
You really have done it all, though. I mean,
I feel like I've done a lot.
I realized
I do.
that something else that you and I have in common today. I was watching some stuff preparing for this and saw that you are a math maniac like I am.
Yes.
You majored in what, accounting and computer science or something?
Yeah, accounting and computer information systems. I double majored at the higher institution of learning, that is Georgia Southern University in Statesboro, Georgia, and had a great time. Mostly mastered the keg stand, but did also complete the curriculum there for those things. And yeah, I really liked math, and I liked writing a lot too. But my like advanced composition professor hit on me, and it weirded me out. So then I just went to and just started taking the math route because I didn't want to play tennis with him and his wife. Like I was like, what? It's like I don't play. Do I look like I play tennis? Like anyway, my nephew plays great tennis, but I do not. And yeah, it was all very weird. So yeah, I did the math stuff and.
That's funny. A creepy dude pushed you to taking a ton of calculus.
He did. I went through 4 calculuses as an elective, even beyond what I needed, just to, I don't know, check out.
Yeah.
I guess it was like it was. That is so weird, but I don't know if it feels this way for you. But I think, like, I realized coming up in such like a chaotic home environment that the structure of math and the quick payoff of it was like rewarding for me, and I could do it, and so I just got into it the way you see kids now into video games. I was into working math equations.
Well, my family built houses, so I come up in that, so a lot of geometry, and you better be good at math.
You better. Wow,
build it.
that's a precision business, and especially to build houses that withstand the elements in Louisiana, right?
Yeah, for sure. So how did you transit, like after college? Did you go be an accountant or?
I did. So I had an opportunity to go to work for Ernst & Young in Atlanta, or Pricewaterhouse, which is PricewaterhouseCoopers now, or I don't know what it is now, in Nashville. And I took the one in Nashville just because I didn't want to go to Atlanta. It didn't feel far enough. It didn't feel different enough.
Right.
So in Nashville, of course, I had come up. I'd grown up coming up to Nashville to go to Opryland was our big exotic vacations. And gosh, just Opryland was just my greatest joy in life. And I grew up an hour from Disney World, but I liked going to Opryland. And we would come to Tennessee and just have these, we were so starstruck by the Grand Ole Opry, and my mom and dad were both musicians. So we were just so starstruck by all of it and how different the mountains were than flat, sandy Florida, you know.
Yeah. What's it like to go from being starstruck by the Opry to having played it hundreds of times?
So very surreal. It feels like living, 8 lives in one lifetime. Yeah, very far. But, I guess if you look in terms of the Opry, most people that have played the Opry that many times, or a lot of times, came from, super humble beginnings. Maybe that's one of the hallmarks of it and why it's such a special thing. But yeah, I think when I first started getting asked to play it, I just took it really seriously. Like I thought, I considered it an opportunity, and I considered it something I needed to try and really do good at. And so I didn't spend a lot of time, honestly, reveling in the emotional implications of it or the achievement of it. I was like trying to survive, and trying to get ahead in a business where I wanted to make music.
Yeah.
I cared more about that.
Was it ever in the back of your mind, like whenever you came to Nashville to do the accounting, that like you were going to pursue the music career as you were accounting, or did that kind of come later?
Yeah, I'd have to say that it did, because when I got to Nashville, I had a few months before that accounting job started, and so I nannied for my sister, who's a nurse at the hospital, and her shifts were working out with her, with my brother-in-law, such that nobody could be home during the day, and they had 3 little ones. So I would stay home with them all day, and then at night I would go try to find an open mic somewhere, and I waltzed myself into some questionable establishments here in this town. The Broken Spoke. Out there by the, wasn't the Fiddler's Inn, or I'm trying to remember the name of that hotel that was right there off Trinity Lane in 65. I would go to an open mic there, and there was one at Douglas Corner, which is across from where Zany's is, and there was one there, and I would go there, and I would see sort of who the luminaries of the scene were. It was Dave Olney and Allison Moore had just gotten to town, and there was this sort of generation of it. Steve Earle was happening, and it was an exciting time in Nashville.
Yeah. And then you fell in with some guys like Todd Snyder and that bunch.
Eventually, yeah. I mean, probably from there, I got a publishing deal to write songs, and then I got 2 big record deals, and I was very much in the mainstream music machine, but also sort of sucked up into that alongside me. Were people that I did not know yet, but I would come to know well, which, of course, Todd Snyder being one, and even people like, Nancy Griffith and Rodney Crowell.
Oh, yeah, I love Rodney.
They were sort of our matriarchs and patriarchs of the singer-songwriter scene in Nashville at that time.
Yeah, you and Todd's done a lot together. Y'all even did some film work together.
We have done some film work together, yes. We have done what I like to call high cinema. So, East Nashville Tonight is a movie that Todd made, was a concept of Todd's that he made with 2 guys from New York called the Barnes Brothers. And they came down, and he just emailed me one day and said, "Hey, do you want to make a movie with me next week on Tuesday and Wednesday?" And I was like, "Sure." He's like, "There's no script." And I was like, "Okay." And so it just happened to coincide with the time when I had come off David Letterman and had a TV deal, and they were trying to get me to do a late night show just from 0 to 90. There was I hadn't been on the radio yet, or,
Right.
Really weird. I guess I have been on the radio a little bit, but anyway. So we end up making the movie about Todd trying to make the TV show on me. And it's called East Nashville Tonight, and it's streaming on YouTube. If you want to lose 90 minutes of your life, you'll never get back. Well, but we had a great time making it.
I haven't finished it yet because I just discovered it, but I started watching it, but I didn't have time to finish it yet. I discovered it this morning.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Well, just think about all the fun in your future, Dillon, with that awaiting you. You cancel all your Netflix. All you need is East Nashville Tonight on YouTube.
Well, speaking of movies, you just got done with a pretty big project with The Easy Kind. Yes,
that is. Boy, it is like, I wouldn't say it's the elephant in the room. It feels like the T-Rex in the room. It's like, it's some business I don't know that much about. And it's a film about me and my music, and then some fictional elements around that were woven in, and it's just a whole nother world. But yeah, we premiered at Telluride Film Festival in August, and so I don't really know what happens next. I've never been here before.
I feel like if there was a movie made about me, I would want to throw some fictional stuff in there, so that way I could say, yeah, that part
right.
wasn't true.
Guess what was true and what wasn't. Yeah. Exactly.
So The Easy, how did that name come about?
It's the name of a new song that I have.
Okay.
Yeah, and it didn't start out. It started out being called Bad on Paper, but because that was the song that I had, and I thought it was going to be more like about this romance, but then it ended up not being about that, which was kind of interesting. We were on a real creative journey throughout it, and we kind of let it live and breathe, and kind of because we didn't have a choice. We had so many obstacles as we were trying to make it, from the pandemic to the director got hired to produce the Michelle Obama documentary, to they had to move overseas for her husband's job at the criminal court in The Hague. just one thing, and then her parents passing, and it was just one thing after another. But man, we wouldn't let up, and finally we got it.
I can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
And see where it goes.
Oh, who knows? I'm about afraid to look, but yeah.
I know it's got to be exciting though. But you got so many irons in the. I don't know how you keep straight.
I'm not, Dillon. I'm not. My God. Yeah, I told you when I pulled up, it's a miracle that I'm here right now. It's a miracle. But yeah, it's a lot. But I have a great team. I have a lot of support. So and I have a great friends that are artists, and we're all in our own worlds that some parts are the same and some parts are different, but we all sort of commiserate and celebrate, together.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Well, speaking of artists / songwriters / actors and elephants in the room, Kristofferson passed away this weekend, and
yeah.
I know that you got to know him and meet him and everything. How was that?
Oh, just kind of like watching him on TV. It's like he feels, I can't remember who described him as this, and I wish I could think of it because they deserve credit because I think it's really accurate, as an accessible genius. So I would say he felt like an accessible genius. He was there, as laid back and easy to be around as anybody could be, and also, from his work and knowing his songs so well, rife with this wisdom and this disposition that's so compelling. And yeah, we were all on Outlaw Country Cruise 6. I think it was 6 together. And Carlene Carter was on that cruise, and we were going to Jamaica, which is where John and June had a vacation home called Cinnamon Hill. And the Hurt video, the June dancing around footage with a hat, like a lot of that footage is from Cinnamon Hill.
Right.
It's a beautiful old sugar plantation in Jamaica. So they arranged for us to all ride together to have lunch at Cinnamon Hill. And we filmed some there and had a traditional Jamaican lunch and all sat together, and it was an incredible table, an incredible privilege to sit there and break bread.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think one of my favorite stories about Cinnamon Hill is One-Eyed Jack. Are you familiar with that story?
I don't know if I know One-Eyed Jack.
When John went out and killed the crocodile?
Oh, yes, yes. Okay, yes. Now that rings a bell. So Carlene told that story. She gave us a full tour of the house.
Uh-huh.
It's still intact how they left it. So there's June's clothes are hanging, hats are on racks, the bedding, the furniture, the pictures, they've kept it. The family and friends of the family, I believe specifically, have kept it intact. And it's just a very special, magical space.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I heard that story about the crocodile. It was him and Chance Martin, Alamo Jones, that went out and killed it because I believe it was eating people's pets or something, and so it was a crocodile with one eye, and so Johnny Cash and Chance Martin goes out and kills a crocodile.
These guys, so Wade Sapp was just showing me yesterday a documentary called Tarpon. Do you know about that one?
Mm-mm.
It's Jimmy Buffett and a bunch of famous authors, and when they were all hanging out in Key West together, just acting out, going fishing for tarpon all the time while writing, bestsellers and things like Legends of the Fall. The guy was writing Legends of the Fall, and they're all just going tarpon fishing all the time.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
I love stuff like that. It reminds me of Heartworn Highways.
Yes.
You're just watching home video footage of people.
Yes,
You was talking about Steve Earle, Rodney Crowell.
And
Guy
I really,
Clark.
it's so, I hope for this, as people that, there are patrons of the arts, that people just creating sort of outpost camps like that for artists to go and be together is a really good thing, because there's it makes some sort of productivity machine. For as much screwing off as there is and can be and usually culminates in, there's also a machine that can sort of lock in, and a lot of creative output can happen in those scenarios. Do you hear Dean Dillon talk about it, going down to the Bahamas and being on a boat?
With Hank Cochran.
Yes,
and all
Hank
those
Cochran
guys.
and Dean Dillon hanging out in the Bahamas fishing, and they would just stay on a boat and write songs.
Yeah.
And just exist and fish and relax, but work on their craft together.
Yeah, I know. They wrote a lot of songs on this, but I know The Chair for sure was one of them.
That's right.
That they wrote on that boat. That's something.
Something.
Speaking of fishing, the fishing show that you had, I watched some of it with the Sturgill episode and Margot Price out there catching redfish.
Yeah.
That looks like a ton of fun.
It was a ton of fun. So much fun. Ever since that time that I went on Letterman and the whole TV conversation started coming up around myself, I would go to these meetings and they would be like, what kind of TV show do you want to make? And the Hollywood people. I always felt a little bit like an exotic tiger that had been shipped in a cage or something. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think about TV shows. I haven't thought about making TV shows. Right. I don't have let me look at my sack here of TV show ideas. It's not something that, I put a lot of thought in. So finally, after being asked that question enough, I started just saying, well, I just want to, I want a fishing show. I want to do a fishing show. And I kept saying it just every time that would come up. Anything about me being on Letterman, anything about me having the deal with CBS or any of that stuff, I would say, I just want a fishing show. So finally I did one for Circle Network, the Opry's network that, didn't last too long.
Right.
But we did 2 seasons of really cool fishing shows.
Yeah, it was a really cool concept because it's kind of like what we're doing right now, except you on a boat fishing.
See, just one up, right? That's
it.
That's what we got. We got our nice friend Ben over here to bring us some elixir. But yeah, we could be out on a boat, but y'all playing. I don't know.
The next one we'll get a boat. You have to come down to South Louisiana. And we'll get in a canoe and go down the creek.
I will do that. I'm not going to do it in August, but I'll do it.
We'll just have to make sure we don't flip the canoe.
Oh my gosh. Oh Lord mercy.
Oh, I think the first time I ever saw you, Elizabeth, was years ago. My dad always watched the family reunions, the country family reunion show. Oh my gosh,
yes.
You doing I'm Not Lisa?
Yes.
I think that was my first introduction to you, which was probably one of the best covers of that song, or the best cover of that song.
Oh, thank you.
That, and I saw you do a cover of Crazy Arms.
Yes.
That cover is phenomenal.
Okay, well, I've got to give credit where it's due there. That is due to Skeeter Davis. So I was riding, I remember where I was. I was on Briley Parkway, and I was listening to 650 AM. Mm-hmm. And they played some song that started coming on with these ringing, guitar picking parts. And it sounded like classic country, but it was kind of it was just super musical and kind of different sounding too. And I was like, what is this? Just the way it was ringing. And it was this version of Skeeter Davis doing Crazy Arms. And I pulled off the road there. I think it was 2 Rivers, and went around and parked up there for a second and somehow wrote it down. And I tracked down that album on vinyl. And it's one of my desert island country albums. It is a complete snoozer. It's called The Hillbilly Singer. Skeeter Davis, nobody knows about it, but it's one of the most beautiful country records I've ever heard. And her version of Crazy Arms, I took to Jimmy Capps. That was the MD out at the Opry staff band, and I just loved singing that song with them and that arrangement.
Yeah, it was great. It was really great. Skeeter Davis, she was something.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes balls to be a woman, you see. And she was the one that...
I know. And, her sort of time at the Opry was ending right when mine was starting. Mm. So I'm sad about that, but I can't be selfish because I've had so many amazing relationships and time to spend with Opry legends. But Skeeter is somebody I wish I could have been around
for. Oh, yeah,
for
sure. Yeah, she was probably the only woman to ever be banned from the Opry, huh?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, you know who you really need to talk to at some point about this if you haven't already? Jeannie Seeley. Do you know Jeannie Seeley?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You got to get Jeannie Seeley on here because she will spill them beans because she has amazing stories, and she was there in the room when Hank Cochran was writing,
Right.
Don't Touch Me. And Skeeter and her Skeeter Davis stories and her Dottie West stories are just, under documented.
Oh, yeah. Jeannie, Skeeter, Dottie. That's 3 incredible women of country music. Mm-hmm. Do you know Tess?
Tess?
Frizzell? Her
no,
granddaughter?
I don't.
She, I follow her on Facebook, and she paints. She's an artist, and she paints some of the most amazing pictures. And I was telling my wife just a couple of days ago, I was like, I don't know how she does it because they're so detailed. She paints like country artists.
Wow.
And she'll pump out, it seems like 2 or 3 a week. I'm like, how does this lady do this?
Some people just can do it. Some people can just churn it out. I wish I was that prolific. I feel like I could be without so many distractions, or as you call them, irons in the fire.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Such a talented family, though. Dottie and Shelly and her.
Oh, I know.
You was telling me that you were in L.A. recently with Shooter Jennings. Mm-hmm. And y'all are working on some new, very interesting stuff in the country music world, Waylon's new album.
Yes. So this has been announced on Waylon Jennings' social platform. So their official statement is there, and I can't divulge anything that isn't already there, but that much has been announced. There have been unearthed Waylon Jennings recordings that were found by Shooter. And from my bird's eye view, it seems that it has just coincided with this time while Shooter has got this really special space set up at Sunset Sound in L.A. So he's got a studio there, Snake Mountain. So he's got this incredible facility, and I think that sort of maybe he could speak to it better than I could, but, helped facilitate getting these old 2-inch tapes out and playing everything down and just seeing what was there,
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, we just had the Johnny Cash album come out this summer, 20 years after his passing, and it's been a little over 20 for Waylon. I'm ready for the next Merle Haggard and George Jones.
Wouldn't that be great? And some Buck Owens and all of it. I know. Boy, don't you wish? It's like I see it in part as a function of, it felt like the way that the business used to work, that artists were in the studio constantly. Mm-hmm. Way more than they are now, at least for me and the people I know. It's like when we go into the studio to make an album, it's something that's been planned out for months ahead of time, and we're in there for like 2 weeks or maybe 4 weeks,
Right.
But, George Jones made how many records, because they were just, if they were not on the road, they were in the studio. And so because of that, there's just so much recorded work. Fortunate for us, and I fear that there won't be as much in the future. But maybe, people don't have to be in studios to record their work as much anymore. Yeah. I guess I'm so tech challenged. I don't record mine. But
yeah. I know after Merle passed away, I don't remember if it was Ben or who, but they were talking about how he had several hundred unreleased songs in the vault, and
yeah,
I wish I had the key to that vault.
Oh, I know. Well, hopefully at some point. Merle was just, he was so great. I've got to play 4 shows with him when I was first starting out in Nashville. Yeah. We did Valentine's Day at the Ryman. And, I was on Atlantic Records, I think, just newly signed.
That's incredible.
It was. It was. He was so gracious and cool, and I just would stand and watch him sound check, and he just loved to play, so he would just sound check a really long time, stand there with his sweatpants tucked in his cowboy boots and a fedora, and just be just laid back picking in some big gorgeous empty theater in the afternoon. It was just like, where else do you want to be?
Yeah, for real. I can't imagine playing the Ryman of all places with Merle Haggard. That's amazing.
It's all pretty overwhelming, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So out of all of these people that you've gotten to play with and go on the road with and collaborate with, who are some of them that you would say stand out to you as just took your breath away?
Oh, gosh. wow, I need just a broader, I feel like, viewpoint of a timeline to really be able to speak that accurately. And it's like just a lot of excitement, and a lot of them would have had to have been in at the Grand Ole Opry because of all the times there. But hearing Bobby Osborne and the Osborne brothers do Ruby, just standing in the side of the wings, from hearing KT Oslin come out with nothing but her and a piano player and just put on a clinic, and like cabaret, just powerful, mesmerizing. Ricky Skaggs, always. Marty Stewart, always. Vince Gill, Patty Loveless, Dolly, Loretta. Yeah.
I wish I could have seen KT.
I did not see that coming, and I am like a hardcore fan of hers. And Allison Moore called me when KT Oslin passed, and she said, she was the female artist that gave us permission to use the big words. And she was an accessible genius, because her episodes of Austin City Limits, of which there are two, but the one where she's wearing the black and yellow and she does I Ain't Ever Gonna Love Nobody But Cornell Crawford, and just the way, God, what swag. I mean, she is James Brown level powerful in terms of charisma on stage.
Yeah, and her voice is out of this world. It's one of those unique. Well, I've always said, like, her and Earl Thomas Conley had the same kind of voice. I don't know what it is, but it's like that smoothness, but also raspiness and blues all mixed together into a voice.
There's this tension, but it's a quiet tension.
Yeah.
They have this quiet tension. John Conley, I mean, hearing him do Miss Emily's Picture, one of my favorite songs of his.
Yeah.
And, of course, Rose-Colored Glasses every time. And, I mean, that's just the ones that I'm thinking of at the Opry House, but, like, out in the wilds of touring. They put me out opening for Guy very early on as a young songwriter, and Rodney.
You was opening for Guy?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Talk about intimidating.
Let's hear these stories.
Good Lord. Okay. Well, so Nancy Griffith had heard me do Sometimes It Takes Balls to Be a Woman at the Country Music Hall of Fame Ford Theater. And she snatched me up, and then she was hell-bent that everybody in her circle was going to know about me. I was going to be this annoying little fly she kept letting in the room. And so Guy was always just around. That's not how the tour came about. That was probably managers or agents or something. I don't know how the tour came about. But I found myself on solo tour opening for him in Verlin. And I can remember a few of the venues that we played, but I feel like we were swinging on up in the Northeast. I remember playing the Egg in Albany, New York. I remember another small theater that might have been in New Hampshire or somewhere. But so he didn't speak to me or acknowledge me for like the first week of the tour, like the entire thing. And so one night I'm out and I'm doing my set, and there's this part of my set where I have one other guitar player with me, and I stop playing and singing, and he takes this break, and I would go strap on these clogging shoes, and I do this clogging routine. Mm-hmm. And Guy probably hated it. And but I was just like scared to death and desperate to entertain, So I'm going to break out my clogging shoes and do my clogging routine to White Lightning or whatever I've got up my sleeve. And so I go to do it, and I didn't get my shoes out. They were backstage. So the guitar player's going, chum, boom, chum, boom, chum, buying time, trying to find my shoes, run off stage. I'm going to look for them, put them on real quick. And there they are. And then standing right over them, I just see these two long denim legs. And then look up from there, and there's just this billow of smoke, cigarette smoke, underneath a no smoking sign. And it was just Guy standing there like this. And he said, "Where'd you learn that Frankie Miller song?" And I had covered a song in the set called Black Lamb Farmer. That was an old Frankie Miller song. That's like an obscure Texas artist, but I always loved the song. And so he chose that moment while my guitar player's out on stage going, dun, 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 and I'm like, trying to get on my shoes. And he's like, where'd you learn that Frankie Miller song? So I had to kind of stop and have that conversation with Guy while the guitar player bought time on stage playing the same thing over and over. And then, and then I was okay. And then he would talk to me, and we toured together after that. It was really, really cool.
I love watching him in Berlin.
Oh, I know.
Videos. He's such a great guitar picker.
Oh, I know. Ridiculous. And such a sweet man, too. Just a lovely human.
Yeah, and so Rodney, who's a part of that old group from going back to the old days, he produced a lot of your stuff, hasn't he?
Well, he produced the Balls album, which was the first kind of indie album that I made, where I wasn't somehow like heavily influenced by the power of the resources around me, I guess. And not that having Rodney Crowell producing isn't a powerful resource, because it absolutely is, but he is, a king and a steward. And he also came through that sort of Nancy Griffith, where it's like the song is what matters more than any other thing that is happening here. And so somebody that just shared that same sense of priorities. And it took from 90, I put out my first indie record in 99, and then was signed to Atlantic in 2000, I guess, ish. Warner Brothers, 2002. By the time I get out of all of it, it's like 2006, 2005, 2006.
Okay.
So 2007, I put out the Balls album under an indie conglomerate that had struck up called 30 Tigers in Nashville. And there were so many artists that had been signed by major labels in sort of the gold rush era, and then that had made headway but then been dropped or their deals ran out, that they saw a business in sort of picking those people up and helping give them an infrastructure to continue to get their music out. So under that umbrella, I was able to do what I wanted.
Right.
And then I had to learn what I wanted, which probably took about 3 albums. But Balls was my first stab at it, and Rodney Crowell was producing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think my favorite album of yours is probably Welder.
I was going to say, you look like a Welder guy.
I love Welder.
I love Welder, too.
Welder's great.
Thank you.
And it, kind of tells your story a little bit.
Yeah.
And which I've heard you tell about your dad and mom. Your dad learned to play bass in prison for running moonshine.
Yeah.
And your mom was a hillbilly singer.
She was, yeah.
So you almost didn't have a choice.
I don't feel like I did, Dillon. But no, what a blessing, what an incredible path. So
yeah, for sure.
Wild all the time. But yeah, Welder was one where I really started stretching more as a writer, because having come up with such, strict honky-tonk guidelines of writing songs, where it was, hey, good looking, and, Buck Owens, Love's Gonna Live Here, very sort of finite song structure and chords and presentations of it. So I wrote in that vein for a long time, and would sort of curve into other spaces here and there, but and that really was out of step with mainstream music row at that time. There was no home for that. There was no Americana Association or anything like that.
Right.
So you just kind of, forged on until you had to go another way. But yeah, when I wrote Balls, it was still sort of with that sort of finite thing, but I could be as quirky as I wanted, and I wasn't seeking that, but it's just what was happening. And then when I really started doing a lot more narrative writing, it changed my songwriting. And that really, I feel like you can tell on Welder, or I can tell on Welder, because I went, from 3-minute country ditties to El Camino and Heroin Addict Sister and Mama's Funeral, and these more dense type of songs and writing, which was just so fun. It's just so fun to write that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So we go from accountant to major labels to independent, And then what year was it that you transitioned into radio, got into Sirius and all of this?
Well, I got hired by Sirius XM on a press tour for the Balls album. So 2007.
Oh, okay.
2007, they said, would you like to have a radio show? And I was like, no. God, it's ridiculous. No, seriously, I just had never thought of that idea. And so I, went along with it and started doing Thursdays and Fridays. And then it went Monday through Fridays. And now that's been like 15 years.
Yeah.
Being on Sirius XM, it's crazy. But
no, I don't want to do that 15 years later.
I know, here I am. Well, I know. I mean, my friends laugh at me because they think of me saying one night at a dinner party, like I'm a reluctant entertainer, because I am a reluctant entertainer. The showbiz aspect of it has never been the part of it that's interested me.
Right.
I enjoy trying to find ways that are inspiring to me to sort of express thoughts in music and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I just enjoy that process, as nerdy or whatever as that may sound. And the rest of it is just really whatever. But that doing the radio has allowed me to kind of develop an unanticipated format of doing that, which is, I have a daily rapport with people that listen to Apron Strings, my show. And, we've come to know each other after all this time and touring, where people come to the shows and we meet face to face, or at least, or if not meet face to face, or in the room together, and that's been cool.
How'd you come up with the name?
No thought into it at all. It's just a slang term, like Apron Strings, probably because your mama's, apron strings. It's like the saying, it's like, oh, you're tugging at my apron strings.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's, sort of referencing, maybe annoying little tots flitting around the kitchen, pulling on your apron while you're trying to do housework.
Yeah.
I've always said all I've ever wanted to be was a housewife. And I just can't seem to find that gig. Cannot find it.
Yeah, whenever I was looking through everything this morning, watching the interviews that you had done and all this stuff, I thought to myself, when we sit down, I'm going to pull all of the irons one by one out of the fire. And we're going to talk about it. And not one of those irons was housewife.
I know. And it's really what I really enjoy, being at home and creating a home. And I enjoy cooking a lot. And writing, reading and writing, consuming things that inspire me, and finding that Tarpon documentary that I think Yeti did, the cooler company, kind of helped come out, which was really cool. And then going and making a good pot of spaghetti or whatever. I don't know.
Well,
wash the bathroom rugs.
You're also a fashionista, right?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Women for Sheriff.
Yes.
Give us the backstory on that.
Oh my gosh. Why did we do that? Because going out on tour to entertain, you have to put something on to go on stage. Otherwise, it's a different kind of show, right? So I found this designer, Sibella Elena, and she would, I told her I want one piece of clothing. I want to put on one thing. And I'll put on some accessory or whatever, but I want to put on one thing. Because part of it is that every night you got to get dressed like that to go on stage. And especially for chicks, it's you got to layer and all this stuff. So I don't even want to do a bunch of layering, just want to put on one thing. So she started making these cat suits and fringe. And we were also inspired by my friend Saddle Tramp Brand, who is an incredible designer and a leather worker out in Sheridan. Anyway, so I start wearing these things. I think she just at some point was designing and drawing some of the fabrics, and we started trying to make them be attached to certain lyrics and songs, so they're part of the story.
Yeah.
So a print on something, and then we started making loungewear and swimsuits out of it and taking them on the Outlaw Country Cruise. Because it's just fun. And also, I mean, a lot of it comes from traveling back home and going into the local department store in mid-sized, small town, rural, wherever, and it just being kind of dismal for, what's offered there. It could be better, and it should be better. There's no reason why people everywhere in this day and age shouldn't have access to kind of more interesting ways to express themselves and with quality, clothing and stuff, not just like cheap, disposable, same stuff that's everywhere. I don't know.
Yeah, I never really thought about it until you said it. There is a lot more pressure, I would think, on women performers than there are men as far as getting dressed, because it seems like women, would be sort of expected to wear the get-up where you got guys like Billy Joe Shaver walking out in a blue jean shirt and blue jeans, a lot easier.
Women are expected to be beautiful, so that is sort of part of the worth factor applied, unfortunately. So yeah, that's really can be like a lot of work and quite expensive.
Yeah.
Ask Anna Nicole Smith said it in her trial. When they asked her, they were like, "Did you realize you spent this much on this dress?" And she's like, "I know, it's expensive." It is. So yeah, I mean, any man in my life, or accountant or otherwise, knows better than to say anything to me about that budget. It was like, look, if I got to trot my butt out in front of people, I want to be comfortable and feel good. So I have fun with it. It's a way of, it's just another way of expressing,
Yeah. Well, we got a little bit of time left, and before we started rolling the cameras, you was telling me that you spent some time over at Vince Gill's, and you said, I'm not going to tell you the stories until we got the cameras rolling. So.
Right. Well, I'm going to conflate two different times to kind of compress it into one Vince Gill experience. So I showed up at Vince Gill's house for a rehearsal because I was fronting a band with him and Rodney Crowell for like a charity event here. And I was supposed to show up with 9 songs, and we were rehearsing at Vince's house. Well, he walks out and he's got on jorts, no shoes, beautiful home, by the way, of course, columns and such, hedges and columns. But there's Vince Gill, barefoot, jean shorts, Predators jersey, and just holding a cat. Just like this, that's just hanging out, and his feet are just dangling. He's just standing out there barefoot, just looking like something that off a hee-haw. And in this really like neighborhood that you have to have sold a lot of records as a musician to live in. So he's so sweet and gracious and kind. And so he was hosting one night an event there to help sort of get legs under the Country Music Hall of Fame museum that we have here, which is so phenomenal. And so a whole bunch of artists have been invited. And I know Todd Snyder came, and he showed up in a limo, but then he got in a fight with a limo driver and left. I'm not sure if he left in the limo or he walked home. Nobody really knows. And so I get there, and it's this huge scene. I mean, there is a scene. There's tents out back. There's just tons and tons of celebrities, like country music celebrities, hanging out. And I'm standing there talking to a group of musician friends, and here Vern Gosdin butts in and taps me on the arm and says, "Hey, do you have my keys?" And I said, I don't have your keys. I've never met you. I didn't say that part. But he asked me if I had his keys. And I said, no, I don't have your keys. And then he pointed to his necklace, and on his necklace he had this pendant, and it was a big diamond VG. It said VG and like diamonds on this big pendant. And he leaned over and he said, "Don't tell anybody, but I went upstairs and stole this." I was like, oh my God, who's taking this man home? Mercy, Vern Gosdin.
That's hilarious. Yeah, Vince Gill, Vern Gosdin. I guess
I
it would have worked out.
He was like, "Don't tell anybody I stole." And knowing that Vince Gill with his, his barefoot, it was his jorts holding his cat, would not be one wearing a diamond VG pendant, like most likely. But I doubt that was Vince. I don't know if he ever found his keys, but.
Vern, that's an incredible talent right there.
Wow. And Melanie Cannon, little plug for my friend, Melanie Cannon just did a great tribute album to Vern Gosdin.
Really?
Oh man, and her daddy Buddy Cannon that does all the Willie Nelson records.
Oh yeah, he's
of course,
fabulous.
Like he produced it, and she sang. And Vince Gill is on it. Jamie Johnson's on it. Yeah, Melanie Cannon sings Vern Gosdin. Check that out. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's got to be good.
It doesn't. There's no. I know. It didn't have a choice. It didn't.
That group of people.
Right.
Buddy's, he's fantastic.
I know.
Great songwriter too.
Exactly. Yeah.
that's what I love about Nashville. It's like everywhere you turn, you just see a talented person and who's got all these different stories. I love it out here.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, I'm so glad you made the trip, and thank you for spending some of your valuable studio time here with Ben and Ben's whiskey
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
to hang out with me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again because I feel like we're just at the peak of the mountain here. We got the rest to go down.
I'm in. Let me know. And be sure and holler at Jeannie Seeley because
I'd love to have Jeannie on. We'll definitely have to do that. Get that set up.
Yeah. I'll see if I can't fester shoot her for you too because
Well, if you want to take these last couple of minutes and tell people what you got going on, where they can hear you, and
is this when will this come out?
Probably within a week.
Oh, okay. So soon. So we're pretty much in real time. Okay. You never know with these operations. Let's see. I'm going to be in Evansville. I'm going to play McPherson, Kansas. I've got 4 shows left for the rest of the year. I'm going to come to McPherson, Kansas and play the Opera House there in McPherson with my band, full set. I'm going to open for Trampled by Turtles in Evansville, Indiana. I think that's November 21st. And I'm not sure if it's announced yet, but I can't imagine that it hasn't. Robert Earl Keen, December 5th at the Ryman. I'll be with him. And I'll also be with him in Philadelphia, Mississippi in December, too.
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all be sure if y'all are in that area or can make the drive, go, because I will vouch that it's one of the greatest shows you'll ever see.
Yes. Oh, and there's going to be a John Prine Festival. I'm going to do a song for that. You Got Gold Fest is coming up soon, and there's going to be a night for Rambling Jack Elliott at the Ryman that Todd Snyder's doing, and I'm going to be on that as well. And I can't remember the dates on all this stuff, but if you follow on my Instagram, I try to make sure everything goes to at least one place,
And of course, y'all can hear Elizabeth on Apron Strings, Sirius XM, and follow Instagram and all that good stuff to keep updated. And we thank you, Elizabeth, for coming in, and we'll see you again soon.
I hope so. Thank you for what you're doing, and give Miss Earth my love and safe travels back to Louisiana.
I sure will. Thank you.